to the very first episode of Voices of Introspection, brought to you by Mixes Diaries. I'm your host, Harini Balachandar. This podcast is all about diving into the powerful stories of self discovery, transformation, and the paths we take to uncover our true selves. For our inaugural episode, I'm honored to be joined by someone whose story perfectly embodies this mission. Herky is a life coach and a mindfulness meditation teacher who blends the wisdom of East with modern techniques to guide women towards inner peace, joy, self-fulfillment, and empowerment. Herky's journeys from navigating a high-pressure corporate world to answering her deeper calling is nothing short of inspiration. Today, we'll explore how she helped countless others discover their own strength and clarity while staying grounded amidst life's changes. Let's dive into this incredible conversation to kick off Voices of Introspection with purpose and passion. Hi, Harki. How are you
I,
doing?
I'm doing good, Rainy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely my pleasure. Let's start by diving into a bit of your background. You come from India and your family has a military background. Could you share a little bit about that? How did growing up in that environment shape your belief system? And how has it evolved over time as you have grown?
Yeah, I was born in New Delhi. My dad was in the Indian Army. And of course, being in the Army, we got to move around every 3 years. My dad used to be posted, so I traveled a lot. And I think, as far as the belief systems, one thing I definitely learned was adaptability and flexibility. Because even as children, we were shifting schools, making new friends, and we just knew this is the norm and this is the way, and we didn't argue about it. It was also fun to interact and meet with new people and see how a community thrives. So within the cantonment, it's a very close-knit unit that functions. So when my dad would get posted to a new city, I know for days together, we didn't have to cook or do anything. We would have the neighbors supporting us, and same thing when we were posted out, we would do the same. And that stark difference is my mom noticed when we moved here. And it's something we just took so much for granted living there that we kind of realized that. I also learned discipline. So I can't say I'm the best at it, but my dad tried his best to instill a sense of discipline in us. And so my belief system was, yes, somewhat, absorbing. In Hindi, it's called Seva Asmakam Dharma, which means first service is my creed and service is my duty. So just seeing that, seeing the officers putting their life at risk for serving the country and being available, that those are some of the things that I absorbed from my family. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So, as a child, when you were moving around and trying to make new friends, do you recollect any specific instances that you felt like this is really hard? I know as a child, we often look up to our grown ups for support. So, has there been any such support that you have received from your parents while you were moving from one place to the other? And how did that influence the way that you start thinking about giving or receiving support?
Yeah. So, because of I would again say, because of the community and the support system that is built in place, it's very beautifully placed. That doesn't mean that I didn't feel sad for leaving my old friends and fostering new friendships. I did have my parents' support, and anytime we had changes or a place was not to our liking, or the climatic conditions, or new teachers, or the usual stuff that kids go through. I have two siblings. I had my parents. We had friends that I could look up to, and then make new ones to have that support system. But we had a routine, like in the evening. Our evenings were always activity filled, as in you have either a sport, like we have these army clubs. So we would be, whether you're just swimming, playing tennis, or playing basketball, or the family would get together, or we would just go for our evening walks and do the homework and come back. And there's lots of parties too, where sometimes kids are invited and sometimes they're not. So you have a community. I have to say, personally, though, as an introvert, I didn't always enjoy so much of that, just the going, because I used to tell my parents, why can't I just stay home? And or I would find myself a corner in a party. Sometimes I would enjoy the interaction, but I needed some spaces alone to just rejuvenate and recharge. So I'm hearing you had a lot of distractions, first of all, to kind of help you, quickly snap out of those kind of sensations that you had when you were moving, whether sad or happy. But then it always had some excitement to look forward to. But that's a good point that you brought up the, introversions. Yes. And I have embraced, and now there's a lot of research on how introverts can be great leaders too, and they can succeed and everything. So I have embraced those aspects because those are the aspects that also sort of supercharge my spiritual journey. Just having those spaces and time for pause and reflection made me go on the path of, not that extroverts don't go on that path, but it just gave me enough room. Even as a teenager, when my friends were, reading romance novels, I was just finding out what is life, what is the meaning of life, why are we here. I think I used to write poetry, and when I read one of my poetry at 16, I was like, okay, so I guess the interest was always there, to search, to yearn, and the depth of life. And yes, sometimes it does. I do need some effort. I do need some friendships or a nudge to get out and, as a business owner, to go network, go meet people. So I try to balance the two. That's such a fascinating perspective. And it's amazing how embracing your introverted traits has supercharged your spiritual journey. I love how you reflected on having that space for pause and introspection, even as a teenager, while others might have been drawn to different pursuits. It sounds like that yearning for depth and meaning has been a constant thread in your life, which is so inspiring. Now, building on that, I'm curious. When you moved to the US, was there a moment that challenged those deep seated beliefs or perspectives you had cultivated? Something that made you pause and say, this contradicts what I have always thought, but I'm willing to embrace and grow from it. Have there been any such pivotal moments of self discovery? Yeah, I think, of course, the cultural exposure to everything. So I came about 25 years ago, and I was a young girl. I was 20, about to turn 21. But the first thing I remember is there was so much dependence growing up, even as a 20-year-old, like on my parents. And when I came and I worked for a little bit before I pursued my MBA, I just noticed that I have to be more independent. I remember standing in the line for my driver's license, and my dad was with me. And we're so used to my dad doing so many of these or being there that when they called my name, we both went in the line, and she's like, who is, my birth name is Herky. So she's like, who is Herky here? All right, sir, you step back. So it was like oh, okay. So just learning to do things on my own, some of them was such a good opportunity to explore who I am and how I can function. On reading Eckhart Tolle's books, and he says when you are completely put away from a system that you're so used to, whether it's like you're in a town that you've lived all your life, the same friend and the same house and everything, there's very little chance to open, to shake your beliefs, right? And to question the things that you take for granted. So even though it may seem difficult to adapt to new environments, it's definitely very good to question the sticky beliefs that you hold on so tightly. Also, my mentor when I was in college, she said, when you cannot make it for an appointment or when you cannot do something, don't try to save face. Like, be upfront and tell people what is it, even if it feels uncomfortable, it's okay. Tell them what it is, whether you're able to do it or not able to do it. So there are so many different things that I saw. But because I was young, malleable, and willing and open, I think I adjusted very quickly. I didn't really feel very different. It was like I was absorbing and enjoying both sides of it. Wow, that's such a rich and layered response. You have shared so much to unpack. It sounds like the overall theme is about embracing change and being willing to step out of your comfort zone to challenge your own belief systems, which is incredibly insightful. That said, I'm curious. Do you have any beliefs or values that are so deeply rooted in you that no matter what anyone says,
you feel like, you know what? This is something I am not willing to change my thoughts about. What's non negotiable for you?
The one that I can quickly recollect is around parenting, whether it's 3 to 5 years or whatever. I was not comfortable with putting them in a separate room in the crib. When I would go to the pediatrician appointment, they would always ask if does the child have a separate room and they have this. And it didn't sit well with me. It was easy for me to see the child, to be with the child. And that's how I grew up. And I sort of had that intuitive nudge that, no, I'm comfortable with this and I'm not going to change the way I do it. Also, around schooling, again, around parenting and schooling. So, over the years, I have 3 kids, and the 3 of them have faced their own sets of challenges at school, whether it was related to bullying or whether it was related to just having test anxiety, or my youngest has OCD. So, some things that they have faced. There are times when I am adapting to the system, and there are times when I'm sort of defying and like finding what is most suitable to my children, honoring and attuning to the needs, to my needs, and not disrupting like the totality of the system. I know where they come from, but I know they don't dictate. Some of the things are off center that I don't agree with. So I did explore even before COVID when my kids were younger. I explored homeschooling when they were small. And I had a fantastic, I didn't do it for too long. I did it for about a year and a half. But I had a beautiful time being in nature, being in spaces, letting them explore their curiosity versus just programming and conditioning and what should you do. Just spending quality time. And I know I have a beautiful picture where we're just standing in the rain and we're not running away from the rain. My 3 kids and me. I'll share with you. I love that picture. Um, and just soaking it in. So I think that was such a joyful side to it. So yeah, I think it's always like discerning what fits well with your values, with your family system, with your needs, and making the best of what you can.
Got it. Yeah, I think you said that beautifully. There's no black and white in these situations, right? Just because you're in a new place or environment doesn't mean you're the only one who has to change. Often the people around you are also responding to your presence in their space, and they might play a role in making the transition easier for you. At the same time, your thoughts on intuition really resonates. Trusting what feels right to you, as long as it's not harming anyone, is such a powerful way to navigate these changes. In your case, being a mom and following the intuition to do the right thing for your kids really stand out. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm curious, how did people around you respond to the change they saw in you? Was there ever a moment when someone said, "Hey, this doesn't seem like you"? Whether it was in a positive or negative way, I'd love to hear an example of both. How did those reactions shape your journey?
Yes, both, as is life and as are people around you. There are naysayers and there are supporters. And I always feel like find your tribe as you evolve, as you shift. There were people who criticized my decisions, and there were people who really supported what I'm doing. I've made several transitions. So, for example, making a decision around homeschooling my children, or a decision around moving to a different place, or anything like that, or even like me switching my career. There are people who will have their doubts and project it on you. There are people who were just trying to protect you. So yes, I guess I've been blessed to have my family for the most part has been supportive, as in my parents, my siblings have played a very important role in providing me support and being with me as I've made different transitions. Um, I also got separated from my husband 7 years ago. So throughout that journey, it has been uh, now we are co-parenting, but I took on a lot of that parenting load on myself. So I found beautiful people online that have just sometimes from their words like that, providing that emotional support. I've also sought out coaches and mentors specifically to help me, life coaches, career coaches, business coaches, and they have been instrumental in helping me. And my spiritual path is what keeps me centered at the end of the day. I just see it all as a play. I'm not too attached to who's with me, who's not with me, because at the end of the day, that is my strongest pillar. that I look up to.
Absolutely. People come and go in our lives, and it's so important to find those connections with people who truly see you for who you are without judging every step you take. Judgment can feel like a constant battle, it drains your energy and pulls you down for sure. You mentioned having some coaches in your life. Is there a particular lesson from one of those coaches that really stuck with you and became a part of who you are?
So I think one of the best lessons is that once you know enough about like who you are, always follow your own inner guide, your own inner compass. Don't lose your sense of agency, your sense of self just by what's happening, what somebody else is telling you. So the more attuned you become to, the more you know about yourself, the better it becomes. The more you follow your own intuitive nudges, the more you're in touch with your authentic self, the better off you will be. The more at peace, the less inner conflict you will have in your mind, and the more at peace you will feel. You will thrive more. So that's one of the lessons. And then just speaking of coaches, when I had to like restart my life again. So I sought a career coach at that time who helped me instill a lot of confidence in myself. My confidence had taken a serious beating just although I was very ambitious and I had achieved a lot in my life. I had traveled the world with my jobs and done a lot of things, but just because of my break, I had adopted a spoke of belief systems, a belief system that no, I have had a gap year, so now I'm not up to par, or I have to do so much more, or people may not hire me, the companies may not want because of my gap. She majorly debunked that and worked with me, setting up my confidence to a great level. I found evidence of the work that I had done. Then I found a lot of looking at my future self, and also, like when I was doing the job interviews, I already set up an office space as if I'm ready for that work. I already put up some positive post-it notes on my things, and I arranged for childcare because it was already happening. And at the same time, also whenever I would find like, oh no, but not, and she was like, okay, let's dig into it deeper. I would bring all of the muck, the limiting beliefs there in the session, which I do with my clients now. And I'm like, you know what? This is a no judgment space. Bring me all you have. Bring me the thoughts that you feel, oh my God, I shouldn't have them. Bring it, please. Let's work through them so that they're not hanging in your head, so that we can clear them. And so that helped me. Within 8 weeks, I was able to get like a six-figure job. I was able to go back, which I would have probably not achieved on my own. That was a career coaching. Then life coaching helped me with so many things. Sometimes you seek coaching for a particular reason. Maybe you're struggling with, let's say, stress or a job situation or relationship situation, and you want around that. Sometimes it's just life, right? So many things are happening in our lives simultaneously, too. We may want to achieve a goal. We may want to get rid of some things. We may want to go from point A to point B. Or we just overall may want some more inner peace, calm, clarity, whatever. So I worked with a life coach, and that massively helped me in all areas I brought about. Like if I struggled with parenting issues or something at work that I was struggling with, or my own self esteem, or not having enough boundaries, or the past coming back, or something like that. So it was very rich experience. And then when I wanted to start a business, I sought the help of a business coach to help me figure out what is my purpose, what is the right path for me. I knew that I wanted to be in this space, but I didn't know exactly. So in all aspects, it has been instrumental. So that's why I'm so passionate about giving it to others too.
Yeah, true. Life has so many layers, and the people who cross our paths often play different roles in shaping who we become, right? Each perspective we encounter adds something unique to our journey. Herky, thank you so much for sharing your story and insights with us today. This wraps up part one of our inaugural episode. In part two, we'll continue our conversation with Herky, a mindfulness and meditation coach, as she shares more about her coaching practice and how she helps others navigate their own journeys. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep introspecting. This is Harini Balachandar signing off. See you in the next episode of Voices of Introspection.